Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode I'm discussing the 2022 computer animated comedy prequel, sequel and spin-off within the popular Despicable Me franchise, Minions, The Rise of Gru, as directed by Carell Balda, with Brad Ableson and Jonathan Deval as co-directors. Serving as both a further prequel to the three previous Despicable Me movies, and indeed a sequel to the 2015 movie Minions, this fifth installment within the overall Despicable Me franchise sees us catch up with the yellow minions from the aforementioned franchise once again, as they aim to serve their new boss, or rather mini-boss, Gru, as voiced again by Steve Carell, the main anti-hero protagonist from the once again aforementioned Despicable Me movies. The three main minions who set off in search of a new boss in their first solo outing, Kevin, Stuart and Bob, as voiced once again by Pierre Coffin, now look to join Gru as he submits his application to join the Sinister Six, a criminal organisation made up of some of the best, most sinister supervillains in the world. However, when the Sinister Six laughed Gru out of his interview, disillusioned and disheartened, and wanting to prove his worth, he proceeds to steal a valuable artefact from the group, and which the group are looking to use, to exact carnage on an unsuspecting world. Gru and his band of ever-eager play-dohed minions then find themselves being pursued by the relentless villains as they strive to retrieve the artefact. Only thing is, one of the minions by the name of Otto, as voiced also by Pierre Coffin, he voices them all, traded the item for a googly-eyed pet rock. Oh dear. So then Gru must band together with his minions, and indeed an ex-member and founder of the Sinister Six, and one of Gru's all-time favourite villains, Wild Knuckles, as voiced by none other than Arkin, in order to put a stop to the Sinister Six's pursuit, and ultimately their plans for carnage, destruction and mayhem, all the while proving just how despicable he can be. For all intents and purposes, this may as well have been Despicable Me 4. That's coming out, by the way. 2023, I think it's scheduled for. It centres around the rise of Gru, as the title may suggest, but mixes this with perspectives from the minions that, whilst entertaining, don't really offer much more insight into the workings of a minion than any of the previous movies ever did. It's certainly a cute, well-meaning movie, tons of colourful fun. If, of course, you've liked the previous instalments in the series, I think you'll certainly find something here, as it's very much of the same ilk. More so the Despicable Me entries, perhaps. If, of course, the minions have started to drive you to the point of despair, then I would certainly avoid this one. You're probably going to come out thinking you've lost a few brain cells along the way. But this ain't all that bad. Promise. It's certainly more coherent than the Minions' first solo outing. The addition of young Gru and a number of other characters from throughout the franchise certainly adds some much needed balance and focus towards the series in general. In fact, the moments with young Gru are brilliant. It is essentially a hybrid movie. The Minion elements remain an amusing sideshow, but it's young Gru that steals the show. Don't get me wrong, as a Minion sequel, it still serves up plenty of Minion misadventures. But let's face it, the name might be in the title, but this is certainly squarely pointed at Gru's early steps into villainy. The story's a bit thin, perhaps, but it's easygoing, and certainly aimed at a younger audience. I wouldn't say it strives to cater for the adults, but it certainly helps you find your inner child, if you let it. Being set in 1970 certainly helps to give the older generation something to at least reminisce about. I'm not sure many of its younger aficionados will get many of the references, if but any at all, but I liked its funky 70s disco flair and parodies of that era's style, movies and general pop culture. It's perhaps not as full of funk as it could have been. It makes use of some disco classics of the decade for sure, pretty good, but it really doesn't feel much different than the other entries in the series than what they've had to offer us to date. And I think that's perhaps a certain element of stagnation kind of setting in. The film revolves only around its own USP and skates on thin ice even then. One part I did like in the original Minions spin-off of the movie was the integration of a couple of Gru's cameos. One, whilst the Minions are frequenting the villain con, is of Gru and Dr. Nefario showcasing their freeze ray, which of course was such a prominent gadget used in the first Despicable Me movie and Gru's trademark weapon of choice. But if Gru was 11 in 1976, the year in which this movie is set, and that's what they say, that would have made him 3 in 1968, if my maths is right, in which the first Minions movie is set. And clearly, he wasn't. Now, I really don't usually kind of nitpick on such elements. If you watched any of my other reviews, continuity is not something I tend to talk too much about, and especially not really with a kids' film. Those rarely make much sense at the best of times, and these much so. But the timeline seems to be a little bit off. And that's not even to mention that we are now led to believe that Gru doesn't meet Dr. Nefario, as voiced again by Russell Brand, is back again, until 1976. Have I missed something? Or do I have Minions on the brain? Perhaps I've been freeze-rayed. Either way, this was quite a frustrating omission, and simply ignorance, shall we say, on the creator's part. It definitely bugged me, as you can probably tell. In the main, there's nothing wrong with this movie, all told. I mean, hey, it started a TikTok phenomenon, but it doesn't stray too far from the others in the franchise. And apart from seeing Gru in his fledgling years, it doesn't really add too much further to the table. They are all really have a similar kind of flavour, you know, and this is no exception. And just on the TikTok thing, I did actually find it quite amusing. I'm not quite sure 100% what this TikTok entails, but it has become quite a bit of a worldwide phenomenon, so much so that a cinema here is actually having a special screening just for those who want to come dressed up in their Minion best. Amazing. At least they're getting on board, you know. The cinemas, some cinemas are completely banning it altogether, but yeah, at least a couple around here, special select screenings. What can I say? Overall, yet again, this is a bit of simple, perhaps a bit bland, but nonetheless otherwise colourful fun. It brings together more of the crazy antics of the Minions seen in the previous entries within the franchise, together with their new mini-boss as they set forth on one of their first major adventures as a team. Seeing Gru in his early years was fantastically charming, and seeing him riff along with the Minions with this and the banter and the antics they have certainly had some merit, and more than gave me a giggle or two, you know. The thing is, it's a decent kids film for sure, but in the main, for the adults, there's some great 70s references, but not much of anything else you wouldn't have sat through with any of the other films in the series. If you've enjoyed the franchise to date, you'll get a kick out of this. If not, well, at least your kids will. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.